All right, everybody, we made it. It is the final week of the NBA regular season. The Celtics are back to their winning ways. We'll look at the final week ahead and what it means heading into the playoffs. Plus, of course, we've got our stat of the week. We've got in or out. It's Green with Envy. You guys know the deal. Let's lock in. What up? What up? What up? Welcome into another edition of Green with Envy. As always, this is your boy Will Weir checking in. How you doing? How you living? Joining me as he does each and every time, my best friend, co-host, and the coach of our podcast, the one and only Greg Manakis. Greg, happy final week of the NBA regular season to you, my friend.
Dude, I need it. I need playoff basketball. I'm so sick of this regular season just going on and on because I'm like, there hasn't been a meaningful game or an interesting game in weeks, and I'm just so
And,
ready
and,
for basketball.
and it's not even just the Celtics. Like, yes, the West has a bunch of teams that are kind of flip-flopping, but it's so close that it's almost not interesting because you can't really watch one game and be like, this is going to be meaningful because each game it can flip no matter what, right? So it's not like this game will decide where one seed goes. So it's kind of become a little bit boring at this point. I will say, like last night, I even tried, like just as we're getting in the mindset here for like, what are we going to talk about? It's one of the last podcasts before we get to the postseason. Listen to the Russillo and Simmons podcast where they made up some awards. I don't know if you've gotten to it yet.
No,
If you
I haven't.
haven't, I would say don't,
Really?
because I just thought it was terrible. Like, I mean, but at the same time, I understand there's not much to talk about. So
Right.
they talk a little bit about Cooper Flag at the top, and then they get into these just like, it's just Simmons doing the most Simmonsy where it's almost too Simmonsy is
Yeah.
kind of like where that
Gotcha.
podcast lies. But as someone who's trying to record content, I understand where they're at. And so it's just that time of the year where right now it's really hard, especially because the Celtics have been locked into the 2 seed for 2 years, basically, which at
Mhm.
least is what it feels like to really find a ton of meeting here. But I mentioned it at the top of the intro. The Celtics have just been taking care of business. They're 16-2 in their last 18. As we talked about for a while, not the greatest stretch of teams that they're playing, but they are taking care of business and they're doing it for the most part with getting everybody the rest they need. The one guy that we can put out there is Jaylen Brown, Greg, and that's who we focused on the last time we recorded, which was after that Celtics Heat loss. He's also played in the last 2 games against the Wizards and against the Suns. Stat lines, they look pretty solid. I'm just curious, has your feelings changed any since our last recording, watching Jaylen in 2 more games since the last time we spoke?
It's a good question. I kind of had this pegged for in or out, but let me just go there. So I think my feelings have changed to answer your question.
Okay.
Only in that I've just been trying to like rationalize and find silver linings as the eternal optimist of this podcast. Like what are the silver linings that we can actually pull from this? And I really like Jalen's quote on studying Paul Pierce, because when I think it was Corrales who asked him if there was anybody that he's been studying of late just
Mhm.
to like watch their game. To me, the guy who I feel like I see him kind of taking a little bit from is SGA. Like he's trying to do some of the SGA, like I think Simmons calls it the yo-yo stuff, where he's kind of just like at the top of the key and he'll turn his body almost like completely parallel with the sideline just to see how the defense reacts to it. And sometimes he'll shoot that step back three. Sometimes he'll then drive off of it. Very Isaiah Thomas like when IT was cooking for the Celtics. And I wasn't expecting him to say Paul Pierce, but he was saying that before the game against the Suns, he was watching tape on Paul Pierce because he just wanted to study how Pierce kind of gets to his spots or got to his spots. And I think the silver lining of this injury, just as you project Jaylen Brown into his 30s with the Celtics, the
Mhm.
athleticism is inevitably going to decline, right? He can't
Right.
just be this brute force transition guy his whole life. And we've seen a little bit more of a cerebral Jaylen Brown over the last couple of years. His pick and roll game has definitely gotten more seasoned, playing out of the post a whole lot more. The drives that he's turning into post ups constantly. He's just trying to use that physicality and see what his late 20s, early 30s body is going to allow him to do. So I think, long term, maybe this is a good chance for Jaylen Brown to see what the next phase of his athleticism and his career looks like. But for the short term of this season, like, we need Jaylen Brown to be the physical freak, and he
Right,
still
right.
doesn't look like the physical freak.
Yeah, I'm with you on that last part you just made there, which is why I'm kind of just resigned to the fact that okay, he's going to try and get this 65 games. We're probably going to see him for I think the minimum is you have to play 20 minutes in the game or something, 15 or 20 minutes for it to count towards your 65 game total. So we're going to see that in 3 out of the next 4. I'm kind of just resigned to that, and that's it's fine. It does feel like he's being reserved out there, which I'm okay with, but at the same time, that's also how sometimes injuries happen. And, honestly, hopefully we get to the end of this week and there's no injuries and we're fine and it's all good. And all of this discussion, rhetoric doesn't matter. I would just feel better knowing that it doesn't matter because he's not playing because he's just resting. Like that's just kind of how I feel. But it is what it is. But I think the comparisons to the long term play here, like you said, the eternal optimist of looking way down the line, not just into the next couple of weeks future. But him studying Paul Pierce, I do think is interesting, especially as we've talked a lot about how Jalen at one point in the season almost abandoned the three-point shot and was just living kind of out of the post, the mid post. And you think about, where Paul Pierce was so deadly. It's that free throw line extended triple threat position, right? Like that was the Paul Pierce moneymaker was living in that area, whether it's through the pump fakes, the rip throughs, the kind of the step backs, using his body to be physical and get his shot over just about anybody that was guarding him. That's an interesting version of Jaylen Brown that we've probably gotten a little bit of insight into this season. When we look back, we can say, oh, hey, this might have been where there's this transition of JB going from that brute force to maybe select, like, I mean, this is kind of like late career Paul Pierce, right? Like he still had every once in a while, you were like, oh, Paul still has some athleticism. Look at that.
Mhm.
I forgot about young Paul just
Right, and I think that's what people even now forget about. They forget how
for sure.
explosive Pierce was as an athlete when he first came into the league, and, like, the images in your brain of Paul Pierce are not of Paul Pierce dunking on people, right? They're Paul
Right.
Pierce living in the mid post. But you think about, like, how everybody kinda has to develop over time. You have to, kinda put a little bit more seasoning on your game. MJ had to do it. Kobe had to do it. Even, like, along the same lines of those types of guys, DeMar DeRozan came into the league
Mhm.
as like a slam dunk champion,
Yeah.
and that now he has to just live in the mid post. That's somebody that I would love to see Jalen, now that DeMar is out of the Eastern Conference and is on Sacramento. Is there a way Jalen Brown in the offseason could even study with DeMar DeRozan and
Mhm.
train with DeMar DeRozan, because I think that would be really beneficial for his game.
That's an interesting one because Demar, it's so interesting because Demar has always been kind of the poster child of man, this guy in the '90s, woo, look out. And it's interesting to hear you speak about man, maybe if Jalen could pull some of that in, but I kind of agree with you, and I've always. I grew an appreciation for DeMar DeRozan after he left Toronto. Like in
Yeah,
Toronto, I was just kind of like, yeah, he's fine. He's a good player. I wouldn't say anything else. But then when he was in San Antonio and then got to Chicago, and in San Antonio, he developed a little bit more playmaking skills, which is something we've talked about Jaylen Brown developing more this year, going to a 2-to-1 assist turnover ratio, which has always been 1-to-1. So as he develops that, and then if you can get him to that level where it's like, listen, he's only taking 3-4 threes a game, but this dude is shooting, DeMar DeRozan was shooting like 55% from the mid range or
right,
60%
right.
from the mid range. Like if he gets to that level, that would be something I would love to see. So this is definitely more long-term thinking. But I love the idea and the concept. And it was cool seeing Paul Pierce was out there. I think it might have been before the Suns game, was like kind of filming Jaylen Brown warm up. So it definitely feels like there's going to be more than just, he's studying tape. It's like he's going to be working with Paul
That'd
Pierce.
be
It
that'd be
feels like
great.
that's,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's the
So
that's the easier guy, right? Like I'm like, hey, maybe you could fly out to California and work out with DeMar DeRozan. When it's like, why don't you just work out with Paul Pierce? Yeah,
Yeah, and hey, Paul Pierce is an Englewood guy, so maybe they're all going to get together. We'll
yeah,
see. We'll see what
maybe.
happens here. But last week of the season here, Greg. So let's just go through the final games this week here. Final back-to-back of the season comes up Tuesday, Wednesday. Tuesday, New York Knicks with Jalen Brunson back in the lineup. Played 35 minutes yesterday in their win over the Suns. Didn't have a chance to watch that, so I will be curious to see how Jalen Brunson looks. And then Orlando on Wednesday, which is one of the two teams that the Celtics will face in the first round of the playoffs. It's going to come down to Orlando versus Atlanta, and that's likely Orlando versus Atlanta. I think Miami has a chance to sneak into that 7-8 game, but likely Orlando versus Atlanta in that 7-8 play-in game next week, and then a home and home or just or back-to-back home games against the Charlotte Hornets on Friday and Sunday to close it out. Greg, as you look to this week, we know there's no seeding. We know that there's nothing, realistically to play for. But what do you watch for? Like, we have to find something to watch this week. What are you going to watch for out of those 4 games I just mentioned?
So I mean, there are 2 playoff previews, right? So we got the Knicks, who we'd see in the second round. We got the Magic, who we might see in the first round. So
Yeah.
I think the Celtics need to look at this as playoff preparation. They've been playing phenomenal basketball, as you said, 16-2 over the last 18. I think it's just, if I know Missoula, he's going to treat these last 2 games as the tune-up games, right? Back to back, a mental test. How do we bounce? How does Jalen play in a back to back if he's not feeling great with that knee? Porzingis, how is he going to match up against Towns? How are we going to guard Brunson? And by the way, Brunson yesterday, took the 4th most shots for the Knicks in that game. Bridges, OG, and Towns all took more shots than Brunson. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the Celtics match up against a more equal opportunity Knicks team, because they've been so Brunson heavy in the past and they've had to figure out other ways to create offense without Brunson. So how do we now adjust to this Knicks team? I think it's going to be important for us just to kind of figure things out against them. And then the Magic, I'm not worried about the Magic because I think Suggs is kind of the special piece of that recipe that's just not there right now. So if Suggs was on the Magic, if Wagner was healthy, Big Mo, then I think maybe there would be a little bit more to worry about with the Magic. But when it's just Franz and Paolo, like, they don't have enough.
Yeah, I feel like from a Missoula perspective, you can really only take one of those 2. I feel like you can't run both of those games as playoff like games, but one of them you can
Yeah,
choose.
that's fair. Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see which one he chooses, because to your point with the Knicks, that I was just looking at the stat line from yesterday. OG went 6 of 8 from the 3-point line. OG's actually been really, really good these last couple of weeks with no Jalen Brunson. And yeah, I think that's probably the most interesting part of that Knicks matchup is we know when you guys try to play us at your best, we're gonna smoke your best. Our best is just better than your best. So what are you gonna change it up to? You've had this couple of weeks now without Brunson. Are you gonna try, like, hey, Mikal Bridges, you're running the offense right now,
Mm-hmm.
and Jalen Brunson is spreading the floor. We're running a Bridges and Cat pick and roll, or I don't know. Like, it's like I'm curious to see if they've done anything or if they just go, hey, we're just gonna give the ball to Brunson over and over again. Now he's back 1 game. He's good now. He's good. Just give him the ball, let him get 30 shots. We're gonna feed him again. That'll be interesting to see how that works out. And then with the Magic, I'm with you with Suggs. I didn't realize, like, I knew Suggs was important to their team. I didn't realize how important he was.
Right.
However, they're 7-3 in their last 10. Their offense, which has been just god awful. And this is, I'll be very honest. I haven't watched their offense, but I've been combing through some of the stats. They're, I think, the either 26th or 27th ranked offense on the season, which is insane for a playoff team to be that low. They're 18th in their last 10 when they're 7-3. So a
Mm-hmm.
little bit better. And then Paolo's got some numbers that are definitely kind of eye opening in the last 10 games or so, averaging 29 points on 46% shooting from the field, getting to the line 9 times a game with 9 rebounds and 5 assists. So, I am interested. I think the Magic game is probably what grabs my attention a little bit more than the Knicks game, because that's, in my opinion, probably going to be the first round matchup. Like, I would
Mm-hmm.
expect them to beat the Hawks in that play-in. And the Magic are a team that you and I have both circled in the past. Again, no Jalen Suggs and no Mo Wagner, who's just a pest, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. He played with the Celtics for like 4 games and has a chip on his shoulder against the Celtics and just leaves it all out there. But they are a team that we have circled before as, hey, this team might be able to give us a little bit of trouble with their length. I am going to be kind of curious I don't know how much I'm going to read into what happens this week, but I am curious to see if there's any tea leaves that we can take for a week later when this could be a potential matchup.
Okay, I mean, I appreciate what you're doing right now, trying to find content. But man, the Celtics sweep or win that in 5, like gentlemen sweep. There's no way the Magic can hang with us, especially if we're healthy, man. Like there's just no way. I really appreciate the effort
Yeah.
you just put into it, but I'm not even gonna justify it by actually like diving into what we can learn. What we can learn is the Celtics are way better than the fucking Orlando Magic. OG Anunoby, I didn't get to jump in. Last 10
Yeah.
games, 27.6 points. 92% from the line, 46% from 3, 56% from the field. He's just been an absolute monster with 2.4 stocks per game. So the Knicks game is the more important game. The Magic game, yeah, if you want to tune in. But we're going to see plenty of that in the first round, and the Celtics are going to smoke the Magic. It's not going to be a question. Not going to be close.
I did my best, folks. I was trying to give something here. Trying to stretch, as they say, what we could here. But yeah, that's the last 4 games for the Celtics, and obviously Hornets. By the time we get there, go take your lady out. Go do something with the family. You know what's coming the next week after, so don't even concern yourself.
I'm just going to tell you right now, Will, I'm not watching those last 2 games against the Hornets unless it's just to tune in. Like if we're playing anybody, like Jalen, he'll get to 65 games. He'll play one of those. But like unless you just want to watch Jordan Walsh in like the last couple of games in an NBA uniform for Xavier Tillman, like go ahead, but it's not going to mean anything.
You don't want to watch Luke Cornett go to the dog pound?
Man, I would even rest Luke.
I mean, honestly, he's kind of at that point
play
now. Let's just
Nemi.
run Kata out there for 48.
Yeah, Nemi and Tillman.
But yeah, so that's the last couple of games for the Celtics this year. We've made it. It's the final week of the season. Knicks Tuesday, Magic Wednesday, and then the Hornets Friday and Sunday. Enjoy your weekend, because after that, all weekends for the next 2 months are going to be consumed with Celtics basketball. So, like I said, take your lady out. Make sure the kids and the family feel appreciated, because starting either April 19th or 20th, we're in it for the next 2 months, where we're going week to week. Every weekend there's going to be some type of big game happening. So get ready, take care of what you need to.
Prepare your ladies as well, gentlemen.
Yes, in all manners.
Or ladies, if you're dating someone who doesn't love sports, let them know. Like,
that's
hey,
right.
sorry.
Good call out, Greg. Equal opportunity here. Equal opportunity. All right. Let's go to our segments here, and let's go to stat of the week. Greg, I know you said that you've got one cooked up here, so I'm gonna throw it over to you. See what you got.
Yeah, let me actually pull this up, because I got an image for you that I want you to look at, and I want you to try and guess who these people are. So what I'm pulling up here, this is the total point leaders for this year. Now think about all the games that have been missed. Okay,
Yeah,
so total point leaders for this year. And I just want to make sure that I actually have the answer key pulled up as well, because that would be hilarious if I didn't. Okay. So here are the top 10 total points. I've removed the teams. I've removed the names, obviously, but I've still got the ages and games played and the amount of points there. So I want you to see how many of these you can actually guess. Top 10 total points this season for the
Okay. I think I can do okay here. I mean, you left the record in there, so that does help a little bit, just to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's gonna help. So we got number 1, we got SGA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number 1's SGA. Number 2 is Ant at 2,050. First of all, only 3 guys over 2,000 points right now. Last couple of games of the season. I don't know if that's normal. Not that feels low. I don't know if that actually is. Let's see, 2,007 points from someone aged 30. I think that's Jokic, but the next one could be Jokic as well too. I'm gonna say the 2007 is Jokic.
Yep, 3 for 3.
Okay. All right, and then let's see. Right below that, we have someone that has scored 1,953 points, also age 30. Who's also age 30 that has scored 1953? Ooh, this is the tougher one here.
It should be relatively obvious. Just top 5 guy in the league.
Top 5 guy in the league here. Is this Giannis?
Yeah, Giannis.
Okay. And then below that is Tatum.
Yep. And this is where it gets really interesting for the next 5 guys.
Okay. Here we go. I knew there's gonna be a spot where I was like, so far this is about right. I'm gonna go Devin Booker for this next spot.
Yep, you got it. So 6 for 6.
Okay.
So let me just recap for everybody.
Yep.
So number 1 is SGA. Number 2 is Ant. Number 3 is Jokic. Number 4 is Giannis. Number 5 is Tatum. Number 6 is Booker. And then 7 through 10 are kind of hilarious.
Yeah, because especially looking at these records, like the records are not helping for this one. If anything, they're taking away a lot of the answers that I might go for here. All right, so the next guy we got here is 25 years old. He's played over 2,600 minutes, and he's got 1,768 points. 25 years old, but on a team that is not winning a lot of games. Ooh, this one is tough. I was gonna go. No, I was gonna say Scotty Barnes, but that's too good.
You need some hints?
Yeah, give me a hint. Yeah.
Okay, Eastern Conference.
Okay.
Someone that we've debated heavily as to his position.
No, it's 25. It's 25. Never mind. That's too. Actually, that's not too bad, but it's not true. Heavily debated his position.
You're higher on him than I am. This is a really hard one.
Yeah, I'm feeling really stumped. Because it's on a team that's not that great.
Eastern Conference rival.
Tyler Hero?
Yeah, Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero? Okay, shout out to Tyler Hero, man. Look at him.
7th in the league right now. Tyler Hero in total points. All right, number 8, you just said him.
Trae Young.
Okay, last 2.
Last 2 here, we've got a 23-year-old, 17-23 for total points. Jalen Green?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Look at the record. Look at the record.
Yeah, I guess their record's better than that. Well, is he the last guy?
Yep, Jalen Green's the last guy.
Okay, Jalen Green's the last guy. Okay. I was the age 23 thing I was correct on. Okay, so then above that, we've got a team that's okay, they're pretty solid here. 37-30, young guy on a good team. Give me a hint here.
Most surprising team in the league.
Evan Mobley?
Nope.
No. Most surprising team in the league. So I still think that's Şengün.
No, Cade.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, yeah, that's a pretty interesting list here. Let
me just read that. Let me read that one more time.
Yeah,
so SGA is number 1, Ant's number 2, Jokic is number 3, Giannis is number 4, Tatum's number 5, Booker's number 6, Hero's number 7, Trae Young is number 8, Cade is number 9, Jalen Green is number 10. Those are your top 10 total point scorers for this season.
Hero and Green got to be the 2 most surprising guys in that list. Like Cade, yes, is surprising, but he's also a number 1 overall pick, and we've just been waiting for him to be healthy. Right. But I think Hero and Green are probably the 2 most surprising guys on that list for me.
Yeah, and it's just games played, right? Jalen Green's already played 79 games, and Hero's played 74. How have the Rockets played that many games already? Jeez. Is that real?
The Rockets are basically done with their season. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
The Rockets are fascinating, man, especially because Jalen Green, I think, I don't find him the most interesting, but he's fascinating, if that makes any sense, because like you just said, he's top 10 in total points scored, and yet night to night, if you're watching a Rockets game, it's a total mystery if he's going to be on the court at the end of the game. And if he's able to be on the court at the end of the game, that means he's having a good game, which means the Rockets have some semblance of offensive firepower towards the end of the game. But if he's having such a bad game that Udoka's benching him, like it's just a lot of Fred VanVleet going, one-on-one pick and roll, and that's just that's not a fun way to live. That's not
I like Jalen Green. I'm the Jalen Green believer. I think if he stays with the Rockets, it would be surprising because I think they're going to look to upgrade. But whoever ends up with Jalen Green, I think the seasoning that he's gotten under Udoka, just making him play defense, like he actually tries on defense. He's not like a Trae Young type on defense. I think Jalen Green, his reputation as a defender hasn't quite caught up with like who he actually is on the court. I think he's a better defender than people give him credit for.
Yeah, he's a big swing guy in the playoffs for me because, like I said, if he's out there towards the end of games and he's giving the Rockets a decent offensive option to go along with Şengün and Van Vliet, then it's like, all right, maybe they could get a round or two. But right now, without that, knowing if it's going to be there each night, as good of a season as they've had, I feel like them and Memphis are the only two teams in the West that I'm like, please let me play them. Let me play
Right.
them. Or I would say let them match up. And then that way, if I can get through one round, I can get to a matchup where in the second round, I know I have one of those two teams to then get to the conference finals. Like those are the two teams that you're kind of looking at. But I like that. Good stat. Good stat of the week, Greg. I'm going to pull one up here that is going to be a little bit more Celtic specific here, and this was going around the other day. So this is this info doesn't take into account the last game. I believe this is updated last April 4th here from Cleaning the Glass via MBAU, and this is the Celtics' most played 5-man lineups with a minimum of 100 possessions. Greg, tell the audience what lineup sticks out to you the most.
Okay. Let's see.
And this is giving you their net rating.
I mean, the starting lineup? The starting lineup being the starting lineup is still the worst of the 5 most used lineups, which, they started the season poorly. So I think they were like a negative 12 net rating early on. So they've improved over the season, which is great, but you still want that consistency, which I mean you're getting, right? They've played 710. That's the most used lineup there. But it's not as effective as it should be. And I'm trying to think as to the reasons as to why, other than just like my argument was consistency, but then they've played the most possessions.
Right. So this is the reason I brought this up as stat of the week is I feel really great about this Celtics team, and I can't really explain this. And that's kind of what I wanted to have as a discussion. Like there's nothing here that I'm presenting to you that I'm like, this is what this means or this is what that means. It's just let's talk about this because it is really confounding to your point that they've played the most minutes. And despite the struggles at the beginning of the season, I feel like if the struggles haven't been there recently, and you would think that there'd be at least a little bit more of a shift. And even if it wasn't the best lineup, it would be the fact that it's in the negative is still kind of confounding when you look at just how aggressively positive those other 4 lineups are or other 5 lineups are that are presented there in front of you. And yeah, they've had less possessions, but it's I don't want to say it's concerning, but it's confusing. That's kind of where I've landed. It's confusing. I don't have a concern, but it is confusing.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of reasons. I mean, you're going up, so this is the starting lineup, right? That's the worst. So -2 net rating for those of you that are not watching on YouTube.
Yeah. So here, let me run it down real quick, just like
Yeah,
with
go
what
for it.
the graphic is. So most played 5-man lineups, minimum 100 possessions. The Celtics traditional starting lineup: Holiday, White, the Jays, and KP. 710 possessions, -2.2 net rating. Next lineup: Holiday, White, JB, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, plus 18.5, 542 possessions. Next one: Peyton Pritchard, Jason Tatum, Sam Hauser, Al Horford, Luke Cornett, plus 12.2, 211 possessions. Next one: Holiday, White, Jays, Luke, plus 17.4 in 162 possessions. Next one: Holiday, White, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, double big lineup, plus 13.4 and 155 possessions. Final lineup: Jason Tatum and the Whites, including Derek White, plus 27, 115 possessions.
So I guess the only argument as to why the starting lineup might have a worse net rating than some other lineups is like they're going up against other starting lineups, right?
Right.
Whereas other lineups are going up against benches, and when you have Tatum out there against most bench units, he's gonna like carry, he's gonna be the best player on the court and no problem. But it's still concerning at the end of the day. It's still concerning that starting lineup hasn't quite clicked to the degree that some of these other lineups have. They can get a little 3-point happy with this lineup here. That's one thing I'm thinking about. I mean, Cornette's in 3 of these lineups, which is, a big
Mhm.
shout to Luke, the fact that he's kind of really developed this chemistry and I think like the lack of a pick and roll guy in that first starting lineup is an issue, right? Porzingis is a pick and pop guy, and they will ISO him in the at the nail area, but they don't really have like a rolling big presence like Luke Cornett is. And I think there's just like a different gravity that having that rolling big creates on the perimeter.
Mhm.
And the Celtics aren't, a drive heavy team. I'm just,
Yeah.
just thinking on the fly here.
I mean, the only pushback I would have on that is that the Tatum and the Whites lineup is the highest net rating at plus 27, but it's also the smallest possessions, 115.
Mhm.
However, the second highest net rating and the second highest possessions is essentially the backup starting lineup when
Right.
KP doesn't play, right?
The
And
lineup that won us
so
the championship.
yeah, exactly. And so, one, that's very reassuring that hey, if KP's not out there, we have this lineup. But two, I think a lot of the things that you said about not having kind of a pick and roll presence and being kind of spread out, and Horford's certainly not posting up in the mid post. You know what I mean? So you have
Yeah.
in a way kind of less options with that, but defensively, I think it's a little bit more versatile because Horford can go out there and guard a smaller guy. But
Yeah.
for that to be plus 18.5 versus the minus 2.2, I think that's probably the thing that sticks out to me the most because I think with all the other lineups, you're right. For the most part, those are all going to be playing against some form of second units. That's the one lineup that probably also has a pretty considerable amount of time against other teams' top units and has such a it's whatever it is plus 20 or plus 16, yeah, plus 20 is the difference right there between the two of those. Like that's a little bit startling, but at the same time you can also play the other side of this, that's super reassuring that hey, when you
Mhm.
might not have Kristaps Porzingis, you actually have maybe your best lineup out there as well. So I don't, like I said, I don't know if there's anything to draw from that, but I just thought it was interesting and it's something to keep an eye on. It may not mean anything, and I think from the eye test, I'm certainly not worried about it.
Yeah.
But it will be in the back of my mind as we get to actual playoff basketball here in just a couple weeks or about a week and a half.
I like that stat of the
Um,
week. I think we both brought some good stuff.
yeah, that was good. Good job by us. Good job by us. All right, let's go to in or out. What you got for us?
Let's see. Okay. I'm in on Cooper Flag.
Well, that's
Easy
pretty
to be in
obvious
on
take.
Cooper
Yeah.
Flag. Yeah, I mean, but there were a lot of people that were like not happy with the way that he closed out the game. Um, you know, Duke only had one field goal in the last 10 minutes of that game, and it was the
Yeah,
Flag
that's pretty tough.
corner three. And he missed it, he missed a layup, he missed the game winning shot, he missed a bank shot off the glass where he had the big guy for Houston covering him, which he should have just been cooking. But the entire game, I was just so impressed with Flag. I hadn't tuned into a full Duke game. I've caught like
Mhm.
5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. So to see him and just like the feel that he has, um, reminded me a lot, of a mix of two guys. And I'm just going to throw these two guys out there, see what you think. Reminded me of a hybrid of Jason Tatum and Cade Cunningham.
Ooh. Okay. Okay. I've heard the Tatum comp before just because of kind of like if we're using the way we talk about like a versatile baseball player, five tool type of
Right.
guy,
Yeah.
right? Can kind of do a little bit of everything. The Cade one I think is interesting.
More
And I
offensively, obviously, with Cade.
Right, right. And let me ask you this: is it the pacing? Because that's something that
Yeah.
always sticks out to me with Cade. From the first time I watched him, I was like, "Oh, this guy's got a little Luka to him," in the sense
Mhm.
that I'm going to control this pace, and you're going to feel like I'm playing lackadaisical, but really, I'm kind of manipulating everything around me right
Mhm.
now as to how I want to play, and then I can kind of manipulate my speeds within that. Is so if that's what you're saying, I probably haven't watched enough Cooper Flag. I have tuned in here and there, and even this game, I only caught the last couple minutes of this game. So I have to look for that more. But I think that's interesting because I haven't heard that type of comp for Cooper Flag yet.
Yeah, it's just the seasoning, the pacing, the
The
decision making
seasoning,
that.
I'm 1000% with you. He feels, and part of this is all of the reports that came out last year from the Team USA camp where they were like, "Yo, this
Mhm.
dude's ready."
Right.
And watching him through that lens, it's probably influenced me a little bit more than it should, but it does seem like, oh, I can see this dude making NBA decisions already on this court, and he's not going to be overwhelmed by like the speed of the game. Like it feels like his decision making and he's advanced in that on that sense.
Yeah. And 6'9" with a 40-inch vert, like the dude's crazy, crazy athletic. Um, I just I think when he fills out, like he already seems pretty strong for being as kind of frail as he is out there. He's not like Chet Holmgren frail, but I think there's a reason why he wears the long sleeve tee. I think he he probably doesn't love how he's looking without that on. But I think yeah, when he fills out, he's 18 years old, right? He was supposed to be a senior in high school this year. So by the time he's 25, he's going to be a fucking monster, dude. He might grow more. He's still 18. He might get to 6'10. Um, and then, just the ability. I know you didn't watch the whole game, but there were some moments where like he's in pick and roll. He's able to see over the top of the defense. He's like looking the defense off, like looking the guy to the
Mhm.
corner and then hitting the roll man, rolling to the basket. He's just like able to make these passes and see over the defense that both Cade and Tatum have the ability to do. Um, it's kind of like Cade's preternatural ability to have things slow down mixed with Tatum's kind of drive game. Because I think there was a lot of Tatum in his drive game. He even called that out. He said that Tatum's one of the guys that he studies and
Yeah,
then he
for
tries to
sure.
model his game after. So really in on Cooper Flag. I was really impressed with him. As a UNC kid growing up, it's really nice to see Duke lose in the Final Four. There was a part of me that just wanted Duke to win because I wanted to watch Flag for another game.
Yeah.
But in general, I was happy to see Duke lose.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you almost want them to like you want them to get their heart broken, but you want them to get heartbroken at the absolute apex, right? Which would have
Right.
been Monday night against the Gators. But yeah, I think Flag having to run a lot of basically de facto point guard is probably going to have a very solid long term benefit for him. Just as he looks to the next level. And so, Greg, when you think about some of the worst teams in the NBA, is there any team that you think of that you're like, I would love for Cooper Flag to go to this team or for him not to go to out of that group of like 6 or 7 likely teams that he's going to end
Uh,
up on?
yeah, I think the obvious answer is the Sixers, right? It would just be like,
To go to or not go to?
I don't want him on the Sixers.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want him on the Sixers just because it would suck to have to go up against Flag like 4 times a year and see him in the playoffs. And, when Embiid, if there's
Give
a
the Sixers an out that they don't deserve
right.
after all of their bullshit.
But even if Embiid like is able to play 40 games a year and be healthy for the playoffs, like the fact that they could be able to pair Maxi and Flag together for the next 10
Mhm.
years, it's like fun. Like it's fun when the Sixers are
Right.
good. As long as we're beating them. Let's see other teams. So the teams that have a chance at him, the Wiz, the Hornets, the Pelicans, the Jazz. I mean, obviously Utah would love Cooper Flag. I think the Pelicans would be a fun team for him to end up on.
Yeah, see, that's one of my teams I don't want him going to. The Pelicans, they've had their chance with number one picks. Like it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
hasn't gone well.
that's
Like
fair.
I don't want him going to, especially with where they're just like I don't know, they're in this ambiguous state of like it's not entirely their fault. They've done a decent job of drafting guys, but it's all kind of tied to Zion, the Brandon Ingram move. Like, what'd you really get out of that? Which not once again, like I don't know, like what were you gonna get from Brandon Ingram? But it's just like I don't really know what they're doing. I don't want Cooper Flag there selfishly. I don't want him in Utah because I don't fucking stay up and watch Utah games.
Yeah,
So I don't really want him on the Jazz. San Antonio, I think obviously would be very cool. See
yeah.
him with Wemby. It's in our backyard. Selfishly, I do think the Hornets or the Wizards could be an interesting place for Cooper Flag. Um, the idea of LaMelo, him, and Brandon Miller is kind of intriguing. Regardless of my reservations about LaMelo being a winning player, he's
Right.
incredibly talented, right? So you
I think
have at
if
least
you
that.
get the number one pick, you trade LaMelo. I think you put the ball in Cooper's hands.
Yeah, and that's the other part. You could probably do that and see what you get from that. And then the Wizards, it's just the Wizards are a team that just has a lot of young guys that feel like they need someone to give them direction. And if they have direction, like Sar has had some moments, Bub Carrington, a few other guys have had like some moments. And so now if you get flagged, it's like, hey, we know where we're going now. And
Right.
so I think that's
It
an okay
creates a
thing.
natural pecking order for the Wizards, which I think would be important. I have one interesting trade idea if you just want to hear
Yeah,
it.
let's hear it.
I think you would have to find like the absolute dumbest team possible to make this trade because I think you take flag number
Hey,
one.
listen, we're in a post trading Luca world.
I know.
There's not a dumb idea anymore. Like it's all on the
Right.
table.
Okay. So I haven't worked out like all the details and the contracts, but this is just a quick idea, 5 minutes before the pod, just thinking of something. So Milwaukee trades Giannis to OKC.
Oh, right.
OKC trades J-Dub and picks to whoever gets the number 1 pick. And then Dort and Hartenstein go to the Bucks. Right. And then Team X, whoever gets the number 1 pick, goes to Milwaukee. So the number 1 pick goes to
Okay.
Milwaukee. So the
So
the
essentially
Bucks
the
end up
Bucks,
with flag.
yep. And Dorton
Oh,
Hartenstein
and
is their
Dort and
kind of
Hartenstein.
their pull.
Right. And then OKC ends up with Giannis. And then the J-Dub and picks end up with whoever gets the number 1 pick.
Man. Just think about how it's so stupid how rich in assets the Thunder are, because you just traded away J-Dub, who was an all-star this year. Let's just say you traded away 4 picks. It doesn't matter. They have 25 of them. Just say you trade away 4 picks. Trade away Lou Dort, who's getting consideration now without Wemby for being defensive player of the year. Isaiah Hartenstein, who's been just awesome since his last year with the Knicks. Since he's come back, he's been awesome. And yet they would still have SGA, Giannis, and Chet to build
Pretty
around,
nice.
even with giving away all of that stuff. Yeah,
Still
it's a
got
pretty interesting
Wiggins,
trade.
still got Wallace, still got
Yep.
Caruso,
Yeah, you still have
Isaiah Joe.
plenty.
Yep.
You still have plenty to go around with, what you need. You have more, and then you still have more picks that you can
Right.
ultimately trade if you needed to. Yeah, I mean, I was just in general, the Thunder have to trade some of these picks, so I feel like a consolidation trade like that is probably coming this offseason for them. But that's an interesting one. Yeah, I think obviously it will depend who that team X is with that number 1 pick. In that team, so hold on. So in that scenario, they're getting, for giving up the number 1 pick, they're getting J-Dub and a bunch of other picks.
And a bunch of
Is
picks, just like name
okay.
the price. OKC.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, I wonder. I think most teams are probably just going to opt to keeping Cooper Flag, but I
Right.
wonder if there's a
Who's the
team.
dumb team?
Yeah, who's the dumb team, or is there yeah, because Cooper Flag seems so NBA ready. It's not like, well, we got to wait on his potential. You know what I
Right.
mean? That even if I'm trying to think of like a team that's like in the play-in that somehow wins the lottery, like
Mm-hmm.
the Heat or the Bulls, or maybe the Hey, you know what? Maybe the Mavericks make that trade. That's the team that makes the trade. The Mavericks make that trade. They're like, nah, man, we can't have we're the white boy era is done. We had Dirk. He's done with. We traded Luca. We can't bring in Flag. It's a rule. Nico Harrison, anti-white boy establishment. He's got to go ahead and make that trade. So that's how
That's the
that
best
trade
answer.
goes
That's
down.
the best answer.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. We'll end on that, and I'll go to my in or out, which I also forgot to ask before. Did you watch the White Lotus season finale last night?
I did.
Okay, perfect. So then we can go here. So in or out.
Spoilers.
Spoilers ahead. If you guys listen to the Ringerverse, just think of the spoiler warning they play there. Spoilers are coming. We are going to ruin anything here. So if you haven't watched White Lotus, pause this, come back after you've watched. White Lotus season finale last night. I'm going to ask you, were you in or out, not on the finale, but just on this overall season of White Lotus? In or out?
I was in because I just like enjoy watching it. I don't need I don't need my TV to be a fucking book report. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like when I listen to some recap pods and they're like, for example, last week when they do the flashback when Guy Talk is at the fight and he sees the Russians and they flash
Mm-hmm.
back to when he sees them actually committing the robbery. Like if you're studying it to the point where you're literally doing it for your job and you're treating every single episode like it's a fucking book report, yeah, like you probably don't need the flashbacks in there to remind you that like he's making that connection. But for the average viewer, you probably do.
Yeah.
You probably need that flashback just to like make it very obvious for you. And I think that's with White Lotus. Like I don't need it to be more than it is. It's just like on a vacation, bunch of interesting, beautiful people making stupid decisions, and like I like it. I don't need it to be more than
Yeah.
it is.
I think I'm right there with you. Where this to me, this is the if I'm ranking the 3 seasons, this is the lowest ranked, and it might be a little bit of in the moment bias, but I still enjoyed it. Right, I just had a
Mhm.
good time. I had a good time, like you said, being on vacation, just seeing what decisions these people make. My biggest downfall with this season is I just didn't really connect with the characters the way I think I did in the last 2 seasons, which is what I
Right,
think usually makes this
right.
show like to the next level special. Is this year I was always kind of waiting for a connection. Probably the only character that I feel like I really had like a journey with was the British girl with the big teeth. What's her? I
Dude,
don't.
so okay. Yeah, so that's what I actually have written down for my out was I'm out on killing Chelsea.
Yes, which I mean, here's the thing. She's the only character that I feel like they really developed that you saw throughout the season. Where when we first started with her, I was like, "Ah, she's gonna be kind of annoying, like whatever." I was kind of like not put off, but I was like, "That's probably not gonna be for me." And by the end, I was like, "She's delightful." Everything
Mhm.
about her reactions when when Saxon's learning that his brother jerked him off, like her reactions during that are unbelievable.
Yeah,
The way that she just keeps building the excitement in her face, she's saying nothing. She's saying nothing that whole time, but she's saying everything at the same
right.
time. She became easily one of probably the only character that I was connected to the point where I kind of and I saw like it going. It's crazy that there's odds on who's gonna die in White Lotus. But I kept seeing like all the odds throughout the day just popping up in my Twitter feed. And I think because she was, and there's no way they knew this when they were filming, but that she was going to be, a fan favorite, that, she ends up being one of the 3 people that end up dying. Spoiler alert, 3 people end up dying
Mhm.
in the finale. Uh, yeah, she for me was the individual star of this season. And I think
Definitely.
number 2 was Saxon.
Yeah, Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I think okay, so here's another question I wanted to ask you. What was your either favorite or funniest moment of the season for you?
I think it's Chelsea's reactions when she's finding
Yeah,
out
that's up
when
there.
when Saxon is finding out because her facial expressions, to your point, were just so on point the entire season. She says so much with her eyes.
Mhm.
One of the things that I wrote down, Will, was I think if Mike White knew how much of a fan favorite Amy Lee Wood, that's her name, Amy Lee Wood is the actress, would become, I don't think he kills her off because I think she
Right.
had like next season potential in her to bring her
She could have
back as
been
a
the Jennifer
recurring character.
Coolidge to
Right. I think it was
whatever's
a
gonna
huge
happen next
mistake
season.
killing her off.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think there's 3 contenders for me for my favorite moments of the season. That's one that we just talked about. Number 2 is obviously the Sam Rockwell monologue
Yep.
about,
Oh my god, yeah, that was the best moment. Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's kind of the obvious one that I think is up there. And then my sneaky favorite was when they're at the full moon party and it's Saxon, Lockley, and then the 2 girls, and they're about to do drugs, and Saxon is just like, Saxon doesn't need drugs. Saxon is the drug. Like that to me, I think about that like once a week, and I just start laughing to myself because I think it's so fucking
Because
funny.
we know dudes like that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I've seen dudes who just can't just say no in a normal way. It has to be like they're too macho for it, which is like,
Right.
dude, you don't have to do drugs. It's fine. Like you can just say no, or it doesn't have to be drugs. It can be like literally anything that you could apply this to. Where it's
Yeah.
like, I don't need to do this. I'm this, and I was like, dude, that is just so unbelievably perfect. And yeah, Saxon was somebody that throughout the season kind of shot up my character rankings, and I think he probably finished. If we're doing a power rankings, he probably finished number 2 for me.
Well, he definitely finished number 2 to his brother.
Dude, that and then his brother's explanation in the
Yeah,
in the
I'm a
finale.
people pleaser. I'm a
I'm a
people
people
pleaser.
pleaser.
I
You
saw you there.
I you know
You were looking
you look left
left
out,
out.
man.
You look left out.
I'm bagging this chick, and I know all you care about is getting off. So
How
I
funny
just
was
want
it?
people pleaser.
Saxon's like, I know you worship me, but don't worship
Worship
me.
me.
Like, don't literally worship me, dude.
Oh
It
my
was
god,
great.
so good, so good. But yeah, White Lotus, thoroughly enjoyed the season. If you guys are listening to this and you're like, oh, maybe I'll check it out, I would recommend checking it out. It's an
It's
enjoyable
fun.
8 episodes. It's a lot of fun. I do think that they could have with I don't I'll say this. I don't like that it worked out for Guy Talk because I was not a big fan. I thought Guy
Did it
Talk was
work out for
just
Guy Talk?
I mean, I think so. I mean, ultimately, he was about to be like, "Yeah, I'm not that guy," and now he's like still fake pretending he's that guy, even though he did. I mean, he did kill a guy at the end. So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't
so
know.
to me, while I was like kind of besmirching getting book reporty on it, I am an English major. And I think like the types of deaths that occur in the season is something I wrote down. So like for Guy Talk, it's like the spiritual death, the death of morals.
Mhm.
We have that with Piper, right? Who thinks that she's gonna go live in a monastery and can't make it one night.
Parker Posey celebrating her that her daughter's just as vain as she is and is superficial is fucking awesome. That was a great part of last night.
Without naming any names, I do know someone very close to me who had a very similar experience in China. But we so Piper couldn't make it. Piper couldn't make it one night in the monastery. Guy Talk, he compromises his morals and ends up shooting Rick in the
Yep.
back, like literally shoots him in the back. And then Belinda, who just does the exact same thing that Jennifer Coolidge did to her, she does that to
Poor porn
Porn Chai.
chai,
Poor Porn Chai.
which by the way, unbelievable name, porn chai.
Well, have you like looked at the credits? There's like porn is just like I don't know a
Is that
suffix
just
or
like
it's like
a popular Thai surname or I
yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what
that's a
the
good way to
okay.
put it. And then the Ratliff family when they all look at their phones at the end and they're realizing that their life is changing. Like those are the different types of death other than the literal death there. I hated Belinda's son, by the way. That kid was the worst.
Yeah, I felt like I hated the whole last episode with his like fake business bravado. Like
Well,
I
it's
like it
two
made
people
it,
that
it
are you've been in sales for a decade. I've been in sales for a few years now. Like if someone ever made a pitch like that to me, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here, dude. I'm not doing
yeah,
business
no,
with
it
you.
like everything should have not worked out because
Right.
he did that. You know what I
Right.
mean? And like she kind of played it cool where she's like then she kind of took over without making it seem like she took over a little
Hmm.
bit, which was
Yeah.
that was okay. But yeah, no, yeah, Zion was I did not like his addition to it. And then I think the three like housewives, I really loved them all season. I kind of wish they had a better culmination to their story. Like
Yeah.
I think that was a
Do you
little
think
bit weak.
Jacqueline Lemon should have been the one that got shot?
No, not necessarily. Although last night before the episode, me and my wife Lorena, we did make a bet to see. We were trying to predict who was gonna die, and we made a bet over who had to do the grocery shopping and cook dinner the next couple nights.
Love it.
Your boy won. Your
But
boy
is she
beat
just
the
going to be like, yeah, but you went to Boston the day after our wedding, so you're actually
I
doing
know.
it?
I mean, honestly, that's in her back pocket for any time
Right.
she wants to use it. So we'll see
Here's
if we can hear
one
this
little
now.
detail that I did like from the show.
Okay.
The bank account of Belinda. Did you notice how much she had in her bank account?
Like $12,000 or something like that.
Yeah, it's such just like a real number for like a real
Right.
person to have in their bank account. It's like she got 5 million wired in, and you look at it, and she had 12,000 like $300.
Yeah.
It's just like such a great real person number of
For
cash
someone
to
who
have.
knows, like, hey, I'm one emergency away from having nothing.
Right,
Right. Like
exactly.
one big medical emergency that I need, like,
Or
to spend
one big
$10,000 on or something.
Trump tariff away from losing all of my life savings of my
Yeah,
stock.
bro. I'm trying not to look at my stock portfolio right now. That shit is not looking good right now. So let's end it on that. Fuck them Trump tariffs. That shit is hurting. We'll be back later this week. As we mentioned, it's the last week of the NBA regular season. So we're gonna try and figure out some stuff to talk about. We're gonna hit up a couple of guests, see if we can get some people on here as we look towards April 19th or 20th. That will be the first game of the NBA playoffs, likely against the Hawks or the Magic. We'll see how that plays out. But Greg, let's see what we can find out. Knicks Magic, those at least will be interesting to watch. After that, not going to be great. So we'll have something. Maybe we'll do something midweek because those are the two games that matter. We'll keep you guys posted as always. Follow us at Green NV Pod. Make sure you guys hit us up CelticsNoise@gmail.com for email as well. Greg, any final thoughts before we send the people out?
Resurrect Chelsea somehow, just like Lockley resurrected. Let's resurrect Chelsea. I don't want her to be dead, but she's dead. She's in a body bag. Put him in a
Yeah.
body.
Also, how much poison do you need to drink? How much poisonous fruit do you need to drink for it to actually be effective? That was also very unclear in that episode. But nitpicks, we're moving on. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.